When Julius heard Mark agree, he was overjoyed and quickly said,
"Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for coming. I will pick you up immediately."
"No need. I will be there shortly." Mark hung up the phone. He had dinner and was ready to go to Pacific Coast. Just as he was about to leave the house, his mother-in-law, Tia, started to nag.
"You just finished dinner and now you're leaving? You useless good-for-nothing are busier than the president. Why don't you go and wash the dishes? Don't tell me you expect us to do them."
Mark said, "Don't worry about the dishes. I'll do them when I get back." Tia said loudly,
"Do you think you are a lord? We have to wait for your return to have clean dishes? Don't talk nonsense. Do the dishes immediately. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of the house."
Mark looked at his mother-in-law's sharp, mean face and curled his lip. Just as he was about to argue with her, his father-in-law came in and said to Mark, "Ignore her, Mark. She never stops nagging. Don't lower yourself to her level. Go do what you need to do. I'll do the dishes." Mark said, "Dad, I'm in a hurry to go out now. Just leave the dishes. Wait for me to wash them when I come back." "That's good too. Don't be too late. Be home early so you can get some rest." After his father-in-law instructed him, Mark nodded and walked out. As soon as Mark left, Tia stamped her feet and scolded her husband.
"Timothy, I think you must be old and muddle-headed. Can't you see that this fellow is getting lazier and lazier? He doesn't even do the dishes anymore. If this continues, there will be no end to it. I only said a few words to him, and you came out to protect him. You're a good person, and I'm a bad person, right?"
Tia planted her hands on her hips as she continued complaining about Mark.
"What's the use of protecting a loser like him? I really don't understand what's so good about him. Back then, you insisted on marrying our daughter to him and ruining her life. But let's not talk about that anymore. Now, this good-for-nothing has married into our family. We provide his meals, so shouldn't he at least do some housework? It's not like he can do anything else. If he doesn't even do housework, then we might as well have a dog."
"That's enough," Timothy interrupted Tia, then raised his hand to push his glasses back up the bridge of his nose and said, "In the past, our son-in-law was a wimp, but no longer. In the future, when he becomes powerful, you better be polite to him. No matter how good a person's temper is, there is a limit to his patience. If you push him too hard, at that time, it won't be good for you." Tia shook her head and sneered.
"Dream on. I'd believe the earth will collapse and the sky will fall before I'll believe Mark will become powerful. Once a wimp, always a wimp. Timothy, let me tell you, if you continue to protect him like this, don't blame me for falling out with you."
Timothy looked at his unreasonable wife and shook his head helplessly. He did not say anything else and turned around to walk back to the bedroom. However, as soon as he walked into the bedroom, his phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and saw an unfamiliar number. He hesitated for a moment before pressing the answer button. A voice immediately came from the other side.
"Is that Timothy Midler?"
Timothy felt that there was something wrong with the voice. He frowned, but still nodded and said, "I am Timothy Midler. May I ask who you are?"
"Mr. Midler, I'm a fan of yours. I especially like your paintings. Recently, I've copied a few of your works. I'd like to ask you to come over and give me some pointers when you have time. Would you do that?"
Timothy said, "Oh, so you are also a fan of art. Why don't you come to my house tomorrow?"
"Mr. Midler, I'm afraid it's not convenient for me to go to your house because I'm a disabled person. My legs are unable to move. So can I invite you to my house?"
"Oh, so that's how it is," Timothy said.
Mr. Midler, I really like your painting. My greatest wish in life is to receive your personal guidance. I'm a disabled person. I can't do anything else except draw at home. Mr. Midler, please give me some guidance.
Timothy did not realize that this was a conspiracy. When he heard that the person on the other end of the phone was a disabled person, he suddenly felt sympathetic. So he nodded and said, "All right, text me the address. I'll come over right now." After hanging up the phone, a message came in a short while. It was the address that person had just sent. Timothy packed up his things and was about to leave. Tia sat on the sofa and watched TV. Seeing that Timothy was about to go out, she said,
Old man, it's already so late. Are you really going out?
Timothy said, "I'm going out to take a breather. It's better than listening to you nag all night." Tia looked at Timothy's back as he walked out. She snorted and said,
Go then, and don't come back. Now everyone in the family is protecting that useless person. Nicole is protecting him, that damned old man is protecting him, and even Kelly is protecting that good-for-nothing. Her brain must have turned to mush. Just thinking about it makes me furious. Sooner or later, I'll kick that crap out.
9 p.m. Pacific Coast Karaoke. In a private room, Anna was wearing proper business attire. Her hair, full of large waves, was hanging loose. She looked quite charming. The colorful lights in the private room gave her face a soft glow and made her look even more charming. Anna sat on a sofa. Opposite her sat a balding and pot-bellied middle-aged man. Beside him was an expensive bag, and he wore a branded watch on his wrist. This person was none other than the CEO of Melee, Steve Cooper. Anna said to Steve,
Mr. Cooper, thank you for coming. I will definitely make you happy today. I know that you like to sing, so I arranged for us to meet here. I hope that was okay.
Yes, it's quite okay. I love your arrangements.
Steve laughed out loud. His eyes, which were like tiny black beans, looked at Anna lustfully. Anna hopped up and stuck her head out of the door of the private room. Then a woman with a full body and heavy makeup walked in. Anna said to the woman,
Let the girls in, please.
The woman nodded and left. Soon she returned with a dozen young women in sexy outfits.
All of you line up and show your sexy little faces. Let our guests have a good look.
The woman spoke loudly to the young women. Anna said to Steve,
Mr. Cooper, this is specially arranged for you. Please choose a few girls.
Anna had been working in the business field for quite some time. She knew that if she wanted to get a big deal, she would definitely have to serve the boss of the company well and make him satisfied. If he was in a good mood, he would definitely agree to the deal. She knew that the boss of Melee, Steve Cooper, liked to sing and was a bit lustful. That was why she arranged to talk business at Pacific Coast. She also found a few young girls to entertain Mr. Cooper as soon as she got here. However, what Anna did not expect was that after Steve's lustful gaze swept across the dozen young girls, he actually shook his head. Anna was surprised for a moment and then asked,
What is it? These girls aren't good enough?
One of them, a middle-aged woman with heavy makeup, hurriedly said, It's okay. If the customer's not satisfied, you can change them. We have many girls. Wait for me to get another group for you. No need. Steve stood up and waved at the middle-aged woman and the girls. He said, Let them all leave. I don't need them tonight. The middle-aged woman and Anna were surprised.
Mr. Cooper, I wanted a few girls to sing with you and liven up the atmosphere. Why don't you want them?
Anna asked.
It's enough to have you here, my dear. I don't need anyone else. Besides, although these girls are young, they can't compare with your mature charm. They're far inferior.
Steve made a shooing motion with his hands toward the girls.
Go back. Let these girls go back.
The middle-aged woman looked very awkward, but since the guest didn't need her, she could only wave at the girls and tell them to leave. Then the middle-aged woman also left. Only Anna and Steve were left in the private room. To herself, Anna secretly cursed Steve for being cunning, but on the surface, she still had a smile on her face. Steve stood up. He walked to Anna's sofa and sat next to her. He had a crooked smile on his face.
Those girls are all common. They can't compare to you. It's enough for you to be here with me. In fact, I came here today because of you. You're much better than those ordinary girls.
As Steve spoke, he stretched and grabbed Anna's hand. Looking at his lustful gaze, Anna felt disgusted, but she pulled her hand back without batting an eye and said with a smile, "Mr. Cooper, I know you like to sing, so I specially arranged for us to meet here. Let's start singing." As Anna spoke, she stood up and walked to the front of the stage. "Mr. Cooper, what do you like to sing? I'll help you find something."
No rush. Come and have a drink with me first.
Steve stood up and poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed one of the glasses to Anna.
Since your company wants to work with our company, you should at least prove your sincerity. How about you drink 3 glasses in a row to show me you mean business?
Steve smiled maliciously. Anna cursed in her heart. This wasn't going to be as easy as she'd hoped. Drinking wine was nothing to her. She had been in business for many years, and drinking alcohol was part of the game of business meetings, part of the game of macho men anyway. So her alcohol tolerance was pretty good. She raised the glass to her lips and drained it. Anna drank 3 glasses in a row. Steve nodded in satisfaction and said,
"Impressive. Come, sing with me now."
Anna thought Steve would continue asking her to drink more and more. Luckily, he only asked her to drink 3 cups in a row, and he let her go. Anna felt grateful for small mercies. Then she stood up and walked to the front of the stage. "What songs do you like? I'll help you make a selection." Steve said,
"Don't just give me some songs. Let's sing together. You can order a love song, the kind that men and women sing together."
Anna was very unwilling to sing with Steve. How could she not see that this big-bellied and lecherous man had malicious intentions toward her? She had to be on guard at all times.
"What? It's just singing a song together with me. Don't you want to?"
Steve said. "Oh, no, I'd love to sing with you. It's just that I'm not good at singing, and I'm afraid that I'll spoil your mood. I think you should sing, and I'll be your audience," Anna suggested.
"Nah, that's no fun. What's the point of me singing alone? Come. You just have to pick a soulful old lover's song. The old ones are the most interesting."
Anna could only helplessly click on a song about knowing your love. Then she picked up the microphone and sang together with Steve. At first, it was fine, but then as she sang, Steve moved closer and touched her thigh with one of his hands. Anna was angry inside, but on the surface, she did not dare to show it. She could only pretend that nothing happened and take Steve's hand off her leg. After she finished the song, Anna felt a little dizzy. What was going on? She had only drunk 3 glasses of wine, so she shouldn't have gotten drunk. Anna shook her head, trying her best to keep herself awake. However, that feeling of dizziness kept growing, and her eyelids actually started to close, as if she was very sleepy. "Sorry, I'm going to wash my face." Anna stood up, but just as she stood up, her body swayed a little. Then she plopped down on the sofa, and her whole body became powerless. Steve took advantage of the situation and took Anna in his arms.
What's wrong, Miss Anna? Looking at your haggard face, you must have had a rough night. Come, let me take a look at you.
Steve started to touch Anna again. Mr. Cooper, I'm fine. I'm really fine. Come on, let's continue singing. Anna wanted to find a reason to escape, but Steve held her tightly.
Miss Anna, you don't seem to be in very good shape. Let me pour you a glass of wine. You should drink to raise your spirits.
Steve picked up a glass on the table. Anna looked up and saw the liquid in the wine glass. She suddenly thought of something. Could something have been poured into the wine? A thought instantly surged into her mind. She widened her eyes and looked at Steve. She discovered that he was looking at her with a hopeful expression and a lustful gaze. Anna immediately understood. She had been fooled. How could she have been fooled so quickly?
Come, drink this wine.
Steve grabbed Anna's shoulder with one hand and raised the glass in front of her with the other. Anna said, This wine is not right. I just drank 3 glasses and I feel dizzy and weak. What did you put in the wine? Steve laughed loudly and then stood in front of Anna with a proud face. He lowered his voice and said,
You are quite smart, young lady. You reacted so quickly, but it's too late. Just now, when you weren't looking, I put something in the wine.
Anna was shocked. What exactly did you put in the wine?
It's nothing. It's just something that can make you excited after drinking it. Didn't you come here today to play with me? You know, if you want me to reward your company with a contract, you need to give me something in exchange. You know how business works.
Looking at Steve's smiling face, Anna felt disgusted. She did not expect that he would be so cunning. He actually took advantage of her when she was not prepared and drugged her drink. Anna originally thought that Steve was a bit of a hound dog, but she'd thought that if she was on guard, it shouldn't be a big problem. She knew now that she'd been wrong. This man was disgusting. Anna instinctively raised her hand and pushed Steve away from her. She stood up and was about to walk toward the door of the private room when Steve grabbed her, and his voice became serious.
What? Do you want to leave? I don't think so. Since you're here now, I think you're just playing hard to get.
Steve suddenly pulled Anna into his arms. Anna shouted loudly, Let go of me! Let go of me, disgusting old man! I didn't expect you to be so despicable.
Disgusting? Despicable? That's a bit harsh, isn't it? Young lady, you've been doing business in this town for so many years. You should know what kind of person I am. Any pretty woman who wants to talk to me about business knows how I like to be treated. Only when I'm happy can we start to talk business. As long as you make me happy, business is easy.
Steve's arms tightened. Disgusting, let me go. Anna struggled again.
Leaving isn't that easy.
Steve moved his mouth close to Anna's ear and whispered,
You want to play with me? You are still very young, but don't worry. As long as you obey me, I will give you a great deal with our company. This is the unspoken rule of business.
I'd rather die, Anna cursed. She had completely seen through Steve's persona. She regretted not listening to Nicole's words. In the end, it was Anna who had underestimated Steve. But it was too late to say anything now. Anna only wanted to escape from this devil, but she had already become dizzy and powerless. How could she get away? Steve pulled Anna tightly to him. Although Anna was angry, she was powerless against him. Her heart was filled with despair. It was because she was too confident that this had happened. Was she destined to become the plaything of this disgusting old man today? If that was the case, she might as well die.
Come on, young lady. Play with me properly. I won't treat you unfairly. You better not shout. This isn't my territory. However, the boss of Pacific Coast, Julius, knows me well. If you shout, it won't do you any good."
Steve laughed and pushed Anna onto the sofa. Anna shouted with all her might, "Let me go! Help! Help!" But it seemed like no one heard. When Mark had left the house, he went straight to Pacific Coast Karaoke. Julius was waiting for him at the door.
"Oh, Mr. Johnson, thank you for your help,"
Julius said with a smile on his face. Mark waved his hand and said, "Speaking of which, you are one of Red's men. I have some connections with the Green family, so you don't have to be too polite with me. By the way, didn't you say that business at Pacific Coast has been very quiet recently? What's going on?" Mark walked into the karaoke bar. Julius hurriedly followed after him. He said, "Mr. Johnson, the matter is a little strange, so I would like you to take a look. I've heard that you resolved the matter regarding the evil events at LAU a while ago. I also heard that Master Zachariah has taken you as his master. I believe now that you have come, the matter here will be solved easily." Julius paused and then continued. "Mr. Johnson, the matter is like this. My business at Pacific Coast has always been stable. It has been great every day since we opened. But a month ago, business suddenly slowed, and there were fewer and fewer customers. At first we didn't care, but later on, business continued to get worse and worse. By now, there were almost no customers. I racked my brain and thought of some ideas. I did a lot of promotional activities, but they were all useless, so..." Before Julius could finish, Mark entered the hall and looked around. The positive energy here seems to have been destroyed.
"Huh? The positive energy was destroyed? Mr. Johnson, how could this be? When I first built Pacific Coast, I chose this place because it had great energy and a very positive feel. That's why business was booming from the moment we opened."
Mark said, "If I'm not wrong, someone has put evil things in here. It changed the energy of your place, turning a place of positive energy into a dangerous place. That's why business is deteriorating. And this is just the beginning. If you don't solve the problem now, I'm afraid..." Julius's face suddenly turned cold.
"Afraid of what, Mr. Johnson?"
"I'm afraid that people will start to die here. At that time, your business will definitely not be able to continue, and you'll be involved in a lawsuit. You will be plagued by bad luck, and you might even lose your life," Mark said. Julius's face fell. "Is it really that serious? Then please, tell me what exactly is wrong here. You said someone put evil things here and changed the energy. Where is the evil object? And who is it that dares to mess with me?" Mark said, "You have to investigate for yourself if you want to find out who is doing this and why. As for where that evil thing is located, don't worry, I'll help you find it."
Yes. Thank you for your help, Mr. Johnson."
Mark walked all around the first floor and found nothing unusual. He then said to Julius, "Let's go to the second floor and take a look." Julius bowed and followed behind Mark. The two of them went up to the second floor. As soon as they got there, they heard a woman scream coming from a room next to the stairs. "Help! Help! You disgusting old man, let me go!" If it was a time when business was booming, this sound would probably be drowned out. But now, business was quiet, and there were very few customers. Many of the private rooms were empty, so this woman's scream was extremely clear and piercing to the ears. Mark and Julius both heard it. Both of them stopped in their tracks. Instinctively, they turned their heads and looked at the room where the scream came from. However, the door of the room was closed, so they couldn't see anything. At that moment, the woman in the private room started screaming even louder. "Let me go! Don't!" Without thinking, Mark walked over and kicked open the door of the room with a bang. After the door was kicked open, he looked inside and saw a fat, middle-aged man in a business suit pressing a young and beautiful woman onto the sofa. After Mark kicked the door open, he walked over to the sofa without a word. He reached out and grabbed the man's collar, lifted him up like he weighed nothing, and threw him to the floor. Steve landed on the floor and cried out in pain, but he quickly got up. At this time, Julius also walked in. They looked at each other. Steve Cooper? Julius frowned. He knew Steve because this person was an old customer of the Pacific Coast. Julius also knew that the general manager of Melee Company, Steve Cooper, was a very lustful man. He often used the excuse of business to invite girls to Pacific Coast. He would then get the woman drunk or use other despicable methods to take advantage of her. So Julius was not surprised by this scene. It was not the first time Steve had done this at Pacific Coast. Every time he did it, Julius would turn a blind eye. After all, Pacific Coast needed business. After Mark chucked Steve to the side, Anna hurriedly sat up from the sofa. She quickly covered herself with her torn clothes and started to sob quietly. "Are you all right?" Mark asked her. Anna slowly raised her head to look at Mark, and then her eyes suddenly widened. "It's you?" Anna was completely surprised. This was the man who had saved her. She recalled the last time she was blackmailed by Simon Aylward. It was this man who had come out of nowhere and saved her. His temperament and his every action were deeply imprinted in her heart. Ever since that incident, Anna could not get this man's image out of her mind. She even felt that she had fallen in love with him. Because of this, her boss and best friend, Nicole, had even laughed at her. Anna only regretted that after the blackmail incident, she forgot to ask this man for his contact details. She thought that she would never see him again. She certainly did not expect to see him today. This man had come in like an avenging angel once again, landing in front of her at her most helpless and desperate moment. When Mark saw Anna, he was also surprised for a moment. He was immediately reminded of the driver who had been blackmailed. Wasn't this the same woman? "I remember you." As Mark spoke, he took off his coat and used it to cover Anna. Anna's heart was beating fast. She felt that Mark was her idol. He was so majestic and so tall. Could it be that this was meant to be? Every time when she was at her most helpless moment, this man appeared in front of her to help her. Anna's heart was instantly filled with warmth and excitement. "Who the hell are you? Mind your own business." Steve had already stood up. He tidied his clothes. Mark glanced at him indifferently, and a cold smile appeared on his face. How dare this guy do such a thing in the private room in broad daylight? It was really disgusting. Steve turned his eyes to Julius again. "Julius, I'm an old customer of Pacific Coast. I've been supporting you a lot. Are you going to let this person interrupt my fun today?" Steve pointed at Mark and said, "Where did this man come from? Who does he think he is? How dare he spoil my plans? Julius, hurry up and throw him out." "Shut up," Julius shouted angrily. "Steve, how dare you talk to Mr. Johnson like that? Are you tired of living?" If it wasn't for Mark being here today, Julius wouldn't have meddled in Steve's business. He would have just turned a blind eye. After all, Steve was an old client. He had brought in quite a lot of business. It was just bad luck that Mr. Johnson was here today. Mr. Johnson was full of justice. He would definitely not tolerate this kind of thing. This time, Steve would be in trouble. As for Julius, he definitely wouldn't stand on Steve's side at this time. Steve was surprised. He never thought that Julius would treat him like this. "Julius, you are running a business.
Can you afford to offend your customers like this? Besides, I am your #1 customer.
Even if you're my #1 customer, Steve, you've behaved badly here many times. I turned a blind eye to you because you're a good customer, but today you forced Mr. Johnson's hand. He has his own way of doing things, so don't blame me," Julius said.
What are you going to do?
Steve's facial expression changed immediately because he knew that Julius was a gangster who was cruel and merciless. If Julius wanted to teach him a lesson, he would definitely suffer. Julius turned to Mark and said respectfully, "Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry your peace has been disturbed like this today. How do you want me to deal with this situation? Mr. Johnson, you just need to say the word." Steve's expression changed again. He looked at Mark again and thought, who is this man? Why is Julius so respectful to him? Mark looked at Anna, who was still trembling on the sofa, and then looked at Steve. Mark then asked Anna, "What's going on?" Anna didn't even dare to look into Mark's eyes, because when she looked at this man, her heart beat faster and her face turned red. "I'm asking you a question. What exactly is going on? Why did this man do this to you?" Mark asked again. Only now did Anna come back to her senses. I only asked him here to talk business. I didn't expect him to drug the wine, wanting to—" At this point, Mark understood what was going on. He turned his eyes to Steve again and said, "You are called Steve, the general manager of Melee? I've heard of you. I've heard that you are very lustful and often use the excuse of doing business to take advantage of young women. I don't know how many young women have had their innocence ruined by you. People like you are truly foul. You're rotten and worthless, and don't deserve to exist." Upon hearing these words, Steve immediately became angry from embarrassment. After all, he was the general manager of the Melee Company, and always got his way. Yet this unknown brat in front of him actually dared to humiliate him like this. Steve said,
Who do you think you are to try teaching me a lesson? You dare to say that my life is worthless? That's right, I like to play with women. All these years I have played with many women. What's it to you?
Mark chuckled, then gently shook his head. He looked at Steve with pity. "If you apologize and admit your mistake sincerely, right now, I might be merciful and let you go." Steve sneered.
I'm not about to apologize to you or her. I don't need to apologize to anyone.
Mark nodded. "I thought so. You are not ashamed. Instead, you are proud. A person like you is incapable of learning to be decent. You'll never know or understand how to behave like a civil human being." After saying that to Steve, Mark said to Julius, "Julius, you are also responsible for what this person did in your place." Julius was so scared that he trembled. "Mr. Johnson, it was my fault. I shouldn't have allowed this man to behave like this here. I am willing to accept your punishment." "You should punish this guy first," Mark said. Yes. This man has done all kinds of evil. He has harmed so many girls. He must not be forgiven. Mr. Johnson, rest assured, I will deal with this man properly." After saying that, Julius took out his cell phone and dialed a number. A moment later, several security guards went up to the second floor and went to the private room. They dragged Steve out while he struggled and shouted,
What are you doing? What are you doing? Let me go. I'm the general manager of the Melee Company. You can't treat me like this.
However, he was still dragged away. A moment later, Mark heard Steve screaming like a pig being slaughtered from a different room. A security guard walked over and said to Julius, "Sir, we have already shown Mr. Cooper the error of his ways. He won't be harming anyone anymore." Julius looked at Mark and asked cautiously, "Mr. Johnson, Steve Cooper has been dealt with. He doesn't deserve to be a man anymore. Are you satisfied with this punishment?" Julius said with an ingratiating look, "Mr. Johnson, are you satisfied with Mr. Cooper's punishment?" Mark looked at him indifferently and said, "It's not too bad, but it's just a punishment for him. You should think about how to deal with yourself now, should you?" Hearing this, Julius broke out in cold sweat. Of course, he understood what Mark meant. Steve was indeed not a good person. He had harmed many girls. But Julius was not blameless. Every time Steve attacked those girls at Pacific Coast, Julius always turned a blind eye. To a certain extent, this was guilt by inaction. Mark looked at him and did not say anything else. He walked to Anna and said, "Miss, I hope you've learned a lesson. Don't come to a place like this with a single man, especially with a single man you don't know well. Let's go. I'll take you home." When Anna heard this, she blushed. She was very happy in her heart. The person she liked was taking her home. Looking at Mark and Anna as they left, Julius let out a long sigh of relief. He had been really afraid that Mark would vent his anger on him because of Steve. The last thing Julius wanted to do was fight with Mark. Although Mark didn't attack him, judging from his words, he was very angry. Julius suddenly felt a little annoyed. Initially, he had asked Mr. Johnson to take care of a matter, but he didn't expect that Steve would distract them both and make Mr. Johnson angry. Mr. Johnson had now left with the young woman. Obviously, he was annoyed with Julius, and it seemed he didn't want to help anymore. But what could Julius say? He could only curse to himself that Steve was an idiot. He had done bad things and ended up in Mark's hands. He'd even got Julius into trouble. Steve Cooper deserved to die. Outside, Mark followed Anna on the sidewalk road outside Pacific Coast. A taxi happened to drive over. Mark waved his hand, and the taxi stopped in front of them. Mark opened the car door and let Anna get in. Then he closed the door and said to Anna, "Go home quickly. It's late." Anna was shocked. "What? Didn't you say you would take me home? But now you want me to go home alone?" Anna had thought that Mark really wanted to take her home. She was singing in her heart, but she didn't expect that after saving her like that, Mark would only call her a taxi and tell her to go home. Anna was very disappointed. She racked her brain to think of a way to get him to go with her. Even though it was only the second time they had met, she felt that she had fallen deeply in love with this man. So instinctively, she wanted to create an opportunity to interact more with him. Mark said, "I'm really sorry. I still have something I need to do." "But I have drunk a lot of alcohol and still feel a little dizzy. I don't think I'm safe to go home alone," Anna said. "The taxi driver will take you back." After Mark finished speaking, he took out a $100 bill and handed it to the taxi driver. Then he said, "Sir, please take this young lady home. She'll give you the address, and this should cover your fee." "Thank you." Actually, Anna's place wasn't far. The taxi ride wouldn't cost nearly what Mark had given. The taxi driver was naturally very happy when he received the $100. He promised Mark that he would definitely take this young lady home. Then he stepped on the gas and pulled away from the curb. Anna shouted anxiously, "Hey, what are you doing? I didn't finish what I was saying. Who told you to go?" After Anna met Mark the last time, she regretted not giving him her contact details. She was sad because she thought she'd never see him again. Now she'd been given a second chance. She couldn't leave without his information a second time. She had to at least get a name and number for him. But it was already too late. She saw from the rearview mirror that Mark had already strode away into the crowd and disappeared. Will I ever see him again? Anna was depressed. She regretted not asking Mark for his contact information earlier. She had not even had the time to ask this man's name. Oh, why am I so stupid? I had a second chance and blew it. Why didn't I get his name at least? After Mark left Pacific Coast, he didn't go home immediately. Instead, he took a taxi to Nicole's company. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. There was almost no one in the building. The light in Nicole's office was still on, though. Nicole was sitting at her desk, holding a pen and writing something in a folder. She was working overtime again. Mark did not disturb her. He quietly stood in the corridor outside her office and quietly watched Nicole through the open door. Nicole sometimes frowned, sometimes shook her head and sighed, and sometimes stopped and yawned. Looking at his woman's tired appearance, Mark felt his heart ache. He secretly swore to himself, "Darling, I know you are a strong woman and want to do your own thing. With me around, if you only knew, you don't need to work so hard. However, no matter what, I will support you. Don't worry, I will help you create your own business empire." Nicole looked at her watch. It was almost 11 o'clock, and she was also exhausted. But she had to write out the information she needed for the employees' meeting tomorrow. Nicole yawned again and got up to pour herself a glass of water. After drinking a mouthful, she continued to work. But she suddenly remembered that Anna had an appointment with Steve Cooper of the Melee Company tonight to discuss business. She wondered how it was going. Nicole picked up her phone and dialed Anna's number. "Hello, Anna, are you back? How did it go? Did Steve Cooper agree to work with us?"
I don't want to talk about it, Nicole.
On the other side of the phone, Anna's voice was filled with frustration. Nicole's heart fell, and she hurriedly asked, "What is it? What happened? Did Steve take advantage of you? Did he do something to you?" Anna said,
I underestimated Steve. He is much more despicable and cunning than I thought. He's disgusting. He drugged the wine he gave me. If I hadn't met my Prince Charming today, I fear Steve would have... Oh, it was terrible. I hate him.
"What exactly happened?" Nicole asked. "I told you about Steve Cooper's reputation, but you wouldn't listen. I know you want to get orders for the company, but you are no match for that guy. He's too cunning. Anna, how are you? He didn't hurt you, did he?" Anna said,
I'm fine, don't worry. With my Prince Charming here, nothing can happen to me.
"What Prince Charming?" Nicole asked. Anna smiled to herself.
The man who helped me get out of trouble when I was blackmailed? You wouldn't believe how handsome he is. But I forgot to ask for his contact details last time. I thought...
Nicole continued working. It was 12 o'clock midnight. At that moment, her phone rang again. She looked at the phone number and saw that it was her mother, Tia, calling. Nicole answered the phone and asked, "Mom, what's wrong?" Tia said worriedly,
Nicole, it's so late. Why aren't you back yet? Your dad, something might have happened to your dad.
Upon hearing this, Nicole stood up from her office chair and asked loudly, "What did you say? What happened to my dad?" Tia said anxiously,
I don't know. It's already past midnight and he hasn't come back yet. His phone was off when I called him just now. I haven't been able to contact him.
"That's strange." Nicole's brow furrowed. Dad's lifestyle has always been very ordered. He usually doesn't go out at night. And when he does go out, he always tells where he's going and when he'll be back. And he always answers his phone. How could he?
Who knows? Your dad has never been like this before, so something must have happened to him. Come back quickly.
Tia begged. "Mom, don't worry. I'll come home now." Nicole hung up the phone and left the office in a hurry. She had walked just 2 steps when Mark appeared in front of her. "Nicole, why are you here?" Nicole was surprised to see Mark. "I came to pick you up from work," Mark said. "No need. Something might have happened to Dad. I have to go home right now," Nicole said as she hurriedly walked out. Mark was surprised and quickly followed behind her. "What did you say? Something happened to Dad?" Just like that, the two of them rushed back home. Tia was in the living room, pacing anxiously. "Mom, what exactly happened?" Nicole asked. Tia rushed over to her.
"Oh, my dear, your dad hasn't been back since he went out for dinner. I haven't been able to get through to him on the phone. We have been married for so many years that I know him very well. Something must have happened to him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be like this. He would never leave and just not return without a word."
Mark frowned. Nicole said, "Mom, what are you waiting for? We need to find him." Tia stamped her foot anxiously.
"How can we find him? I've already called all the people he knows who are involved with art and painting. None of them have seen him, Nicole. I think we should call the police."
Nicole shook her head. "The police won't pay any attention. Missing persons cases aren't opened for adults until they've been missing at least 24 hours.
"Then what should we do?"
Tia screeched.
"I can't just twiddle my thumbs and wait for him to show up. He might be lying in a ditch somewhere."
Nicole said, "I will go and find my father." She turned around and walked toward the door, but Tia pulled her back.
"Where are you going to look? I have no idea where he went at all. You can't just randomly search the streets."
"I have to do something," Nicole insisted. "What else can I do?" Just as the mother and daughter were getting into an argument, Mark said, "I have a way." Tia and Nicole turned their eyes at him at the same time. Mark said, "Nicole, go and find me a pair of scissors and a piece of paper." Nicole frowned. "What do you mean?" Tia immediately stomped her feet and scolded.
"You fool! What are you doing looking for scissors and paper at such a time? Do you have no conscience? Your dad is missing. Aren't you worried at all?"
Mark said, "Shut up." He spoke again to Nicole. "If you want to find Dad quickly, go and get me scissors and paper." "What exactly do you want to do?" Nicole asked. "I have a way to find Dad," Mark said firmly. Nicole hesitated for a moment and then went back to the bedroom. She got a pair of scissors and a piece of white paper.
"Fool, what are you doing? You're wasting time,"
Tia scolded angrily. Mark ignored her and cut the paper into the shape of a paper bird. Tia scowled at his handiwork.
"What is this? Are you joking?"
Mark held the paper bird in his hand and looked at it. Then he bit his right middle finger with his teeth and wrote Timothy's name in blood on the paper bird. Mark cut 5 paper birds from the piece of paper and wrote his father-in-law's name in blood on each one. He then placed the 5 paper birds on the floor. Nicole and her mother were surprised by what they saw. Tia said angrily,
"Look at the time. Your father might be in trouble, but you are playing with paper and scissors. What are you?"
Nicole was also worried and shouted at Mark, "What are you doing? Dad's in trouble." Mark looked up and said to Nicole, "Don't worry, Nicole. I will find Timothy soon." After saying this, he sat cross-legged on the floor and closed his eyes. He began to chant silently to himself. Nicole and her mother were dumbfounded by his actions. They were also somewhat angry. Just as Tia was about to curse at him again, something strange happened. One of the 5 paper birds that Mark had placed on the floor suddenly stood up. This gave Nicole and Tia a shock. This was a paper bird that was cut from a thin piece of paper. It was simply impossible for it to stand on the floor. Immediately after that, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th paper birds also stood up. All 5 paper birds with Timothy Midler's name on them stood on the floor together. Mark suddenly opened his eyes and pointed his right finger at the 5 paper birds. He shouted, "Go." Then the 5 paper birds immediately started shaking. Nicole could not help but ask, "Mark, what is going on?" Mark said, "I used the 5 ghosts tracking technique. I will be able to find Dad very soon. Don't worry." Nicole was startled. Five ghosts? What do you mean?" "This is a way to find people in the Profound group. cut the paper into 5 paper birds and place them on the floor. Then recite an incantation and summon the 5 ghosts from the underworld. Ask them to attach themselves to these 5 paper birds and ask them to help find people," Mark explained. Tia's eyes widened. She raised her hand and pointed at the 5 paper birds that were shaking left and right. Her voice was trembling as she said, You mean you invited 5 ghosts here and attached them to these 5 paper birds? So that's why the paper birds are shaking?" Mark nodded. "That's right." Don't scare us. It's midnight and you were talking about ghosts? Can you really get Dad back with this?" Nicole asked. "Of course. But before I find Dad, I have to ask how he is. Is there something wrong?" Mark closed his eyes again and started to chant. After a moment, he opened his eyes and pointed at the paper bird in the middle. He said loudly, "Enter." As soon as he said that, the paper bird in the middle started to quiver violently as if it had been electrocuted. Mark frowned. He suddenly stood up from the ground and said, "Not good. Something really happened to Dad." Nicole and Tia's expressions changed instantly. Nicole said, "What happened? Why are you so sure that something has happened to my father?" Mark could not be bothered to talk about it anymore. He simply said, "I don't have time to talk about it anymore. I will ask these 5 ghosts to help me find Dad." After saying that, Mark turned to the 5 paper birds and said loudly, "Rise." The 5 paper birds immediately floated up into the air and went out the door. Mark hurriedly followed them. Nicole anxiously pulled Mark's sleeve and asked, "Where are you going? Where are you going to look for him?" Mark said, "I'm going to find him. I don't know where. You and Mom stay here and don't go anywhere. Wait for my call." After saying that, Mark quickly chased after the paper birds. Nicole looked at Mark's back as he walked out. Her face showed a look of disbelief. She sighed heavily and muttered to herself, "What on earth is he doing? What 5 ghosts? Isn't this an old superstition? How can he possibly find Dad like this?" Tia said, "This good-for-nothing is getting more and more outrageous. He thinks that we are children if we believe he can find your father by cutting out a few paper birds. That's ridiculous. I am so angry. Nicole, you can't count on this good-for-nothing anymore. Let's call the police," Tia said. Nicole said, "Mom, I said we need to wait 24 hours. It's useless to call the police too soon. They won't listen. You stay here. I'll go look for Dad." After that, Nicole rushed out the door. Tia was helpless and could only shout at her daughter as she left, "Nicole, be careful. I don't need you disappearing too. If you really can't find him, we will call the police." Mark followed the 5 paper birds down the road. They were following his father-in-law's scent, which he had chanted into them while he was sitting on the living room floor. After more than half an hour, they led him to a run-down building. This place was not the suburbs. It was in a more remote area. Plus, it was late at night, and there was almost no one around. Because this run-down building had been abandoned for a long time and was surrounded by abandoned houses, it looked very gloomy. At this moment, what Mark did not expect was that in the basement of this run-down building, his father-in-law was tied up in a tattered chair. A few large men in black stood in front of Timothy. Timothy had been tied up on the chair for several hours, and he was completely exhausted. He slowly looked up at the men in front of him and asked, Who are you? Why did you bring me here? What exactly do you want?" The muscular man in the lead had a tattoo of an azure dragon on his arm, and he held a wooden stick in one hand. He walked to Timothy, then slowly moved his mouth close to Timothy's ear and said, "I don't want to do anything. You just need to answer my questions honestly, and we will let you go." Who are you? What do you want to know?"
Timothy asked. At this moment, he couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. When dinner had just ended, he received a phone call. The person on the other end of the call said he was a fan of Timothy's work. He liked Timothy's paintings very much. He said that his biggest wish in life was to receive Timothy's personal guidance. That person also said that he was disabled and could not personally visit Timothy. He hoped that Timothy could come to his house to see him and give him some guidance. Timothy was a very kind person, so he did not think too much about it and went to the address that person sent him. But he did not expect that the address wasn't a residence, but an unfinished, abandoned building. Timothy felt that something was wrong and quickly took out his phone to call the person, but there was no answer. Timothy realized that something was wrong. He turned around to leave, but the taxi that had brought him here had already driven away. However, at that moment, several large men in black suddenly walked out of the unfinished building. The one in the lead had a tattoo on his arm and a cigarette in his mouth. These men stopped in front of Timothy and looked at him maliciously. Timothy stumbled back 2 steps and said, "Ew, who are you?" But just as he said this, he suddenly felt a pain on the back of his head. One of them had hit the back of his head with a wooden stick, and Timothy passed out. When Timothy woke up again, he found himself tied to a chair by a rope. He was in a dark room. It seemed to be a basement. The light in the basement was very dim. Timothy's first reaction was that he might have been mugged, but he did not have any money on him, so there was nothing for anyone to take. And this brawny man with the tattoo on his arm actually said that he did not want money. He only needed Timothy to answer a few questions. The muscular man shook the wooden stick in his hand and said, "Who are you?" Timothy was surprised. I am Timothy Midler." The strong man interrupted him and said, "I know you call yourself Timothy Midler, but I'm asking about your real identity." Timothy's brow furrowed. "Real identity? What real identity? I'm just an ordinary person. I used to work at the Art Association, but since I retired, I just stay at home." "Shut up. I'm asking about your true identity. Are you going around in circles with me?" The young man roared angrily. He suddenly raised the wooden stick in his hand and smashed it down on Timothy's shoulder with a bang. "Ah!" Timothy let out a miserable shriek. Timothy's shoulder was hit by a stick, causing him to break out in cold sweat. After all, he was old. How could he withstand such torture? The man with the stick demanded again, "Old man, are you fooling with us? I'm asking you your real identity." "My real identity?" Timothy shook his head. "I am just an ordinary old man. What do you want with me?" "So you won't tell me?" The man shook the wooden stick in his hand again. He changed the topic and said, "Okay, let's change the question. Who is Mark?" Hearing this, Timothy was surprised. Then he said, Mark is my son-in-law." "Let me ask you, who is he?" The brawny man suddenly shouted, and his expression was ruthless. Timothy was so scared that he trembled, and then he said, He is just an ordinary person, and even a bit cowardly. Why are you asking this?" "An ordinary person?" The strong man suddenly laughed. "Yes, that's right. Your son-in-law is indeed very useless. Everyone says that he is a wimp. But since you know that he is a good-for-nothing, why did you marry your daughter to him? As far as I know, that daughter of yours is gorgeous and intelligent. She is a rare beauty, and she is very capable. And she is the boss of a company. Such a good daughter. You're really willing to see her married to a loser?" Timothy said, "I married my daughter to him, yes. I don't want anything from him, but I want him to be honest and hardworking. He's good to my daughter, and that's all I want." The strong man suddenly turned hostile and said fiercely, "You married your daughter to him because you want him to be honest? Do you think I was born yesterday?" The strong man waved the wooden stick in his hand and walked around to Timothy. Finally, he stood in front of him and spoke close to Timothy's ear. He whispered, "Midler, 5 years ago, you suddenly received a secret letter. After reading the letter, you immediately decided to marry your daughter to that good-for-nothing. You even almost fell out with your family because of it." Hearing this, Timothy looked startled, but he quickly schooled his expression. "Tell me," the man said, "what's with that secret letter? Who sent it to you? What was in it? Why was it that after you received the secret letter, you married your daughter to that good-for-nothing?" Timothy was surprised for a moment before he shook his head. "I don't understand what you are talking about. What secret letter?" "Damn it, you still don't want to admit it? Okay. The brawny man took 2 steps back and raised the wooden stick in his hand again. With a bang, he smashed it onto Timothy's other shoulder. Timothy let out a scream. Cold sweat had already appeared on his forehead. The strong man put away the wooden stick and continued to ask his questions. "Tell me, is that letter related to the Profound Group? What does it have to do with you and the Profound Group? What does that mark have to do with the Profound Group?" Timothy took a deep breath and said, "I don't know. What Profound Group? I really don't know what you were talking about." "You're still stubborn, right? Not willing to let go, right? It seems like I'm too soft-hearted to you." The brawny man raised the wooden stick again and slowly placed it on Timothy's knee. After that, he slid it down his knee toward his calf. "Midler, please don't challenge my patience. I'll ask you one last time. If you answer honestly, I will immediately let you go. If you play tricks on me, I'll use this wooden stick to break your leg. After breaking it, I'll fix it for you. After fixing it, I'll break it for you. Just like that, over and over again, until I can't fix it in the end." "You..." Timothy's face was filled with anger. He panted and said, "Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't know what Profound Group is. Midler, let me tell you the truth. We're not interested in you. We have no interest in that Johnson kid either. But we do want to know about the Profound Group. When the Profound Group was besieged, all the disciples were killed, and the old leader, Spectrum, disappeared without a trace. For many years, someone has been looking for that old man, Spectrum. He wants to eradicate him. But unfortunately, no trace of Spectrum could be found. It was as if the Profound Group had vanished from this world just like that. There was no trace of him left behind. But he didn't expect that Johnson brat would appear. He uses the martial arts of the Profound Group, and even claims to be a disciple of the Profound Group. Therefore, we need to know who he is." The man fingered his stick menacingly. "Midler, my patience is limited. I'll ask you one last time. What is the background of that Johnson guy? What is your relationship with the Profound Group?" Timothy shook his head and said, "I don't know what the Profound Group is. I don't know what you are talking about." "I don't believe it, so don't blame me for being ruthless." The brawny man raised the wooden stick again and aimed it at Timothy's knee. "Midler, after I beat you to death, it'll be too late for you to change your story." Timothy closed his eyes. His actions enraged the brawny man. "Go to hell, old man." The brawny man was about to smash Timothy's knee with the wooden stick in his hand when a loud shout was heard. "Stop." The brawny man was startled by the interruption. Before he could recover from his shock, he felt a pain in his wrist. He loosened his grip, and the wooden stick in his hand fell to the ground with a clatter. The man also let out a miserable cry. He staggered. Mark had used the 5 ghosts tracking technique to track Timothy all the way here. He had locked on to the basement of the building and immediately smelled his father-in-law's fear-filled scent emanating from it. When Mark rushed into the basement, he found a man in black clothes raising a wooden stick to assault his father-in-law. So without saying anything, he flung a small stone he'd picked up on his way in. It shot out and hit the man's wrist, causing the wooden stick in his hand to clatter to the floor. Then, Mark saw his father-in-law tied to a chair. At this moment, Timothy was trembling, and his face was pale. Huge beads of sweat dripped from his forehead and ran down his face. It was obvious that he had been beaten up. Mark was furious. He looked at the gathered men with fury in his eyes. These men were destined to become dead men today. He would never forgive those who dared to attack his father-in-law. However, before that, he had to find out the origin and purpose of these men. "Dad," Mark called out to Timothy. When Timothy saw Mark, he shouted, "Mark, get out of here. They're after you. Get out now." The men who had grabbed Timothy regained their senses. One of them harumphed coldly and said, "How nice of you to join the party, Johnson. Saves us the trouble of going to find you." After that, he waved his hand and his men immediately surrounded Mark. Mark showed no sign of fear. He stood there calmly, but his expression was terrifyingly serious. The fury in his eyes couldn't be concealed. He swept his eyes coldly around the group and said, "How dare you attack my father-in-law? All of you will die today." After saying this, Mark attacked. Golden flames shot out from his palms like missiles, heading straight for his foes. Pow! The flames hit one of the strong men, and his body immediately burst into flames. The others also caught on fire. No! The men didn't understand how their bodies were suddenly burning. They screamed and waved their hands desperately, but it was useless. This was the triple true fire. Even if someone poured buckets of water on these flames, they couldn't be extinguished. So these people screamed and rolled on the ground in pain. This situation did not last for long. In just a few short minutes, the men stopped moving. In the end, their bodies turned to ash, and even the ashes disappeared. Only then did the flames go out. Almost in the blink of an eye, except for the one Mark had hit on the wrist with a stone, the gang of men all turned to ash. When the remaining man saw this scene, his face revealed a shocked expression. His whole body trembled as if he had received a huge shock. "Johnson, you really are from the Profound Group. You can spit out the triple true fire of the Profound Group from your palm. When the man looked at Mark again, he was incomparably shocked. At this moment, Mark was moving toward him step by step. A killing intent emanated from his body, surrounding the brawny man. For the first time, the brawny man felt fear. He felt the threat of death. He began to slowly retreat. As he retreated, he stared into Mark's eyes with enlarged pupils. Then he said, "You really are a member of the Profound Group, but how is that possible? All the disciples of the Profound Group died more than 10 years ago. Only Spectrum was left. Could it be? Could it be that you are a fish that escaped the net?" Mark approached the burly man and said, "You captured my father-in-law because you want to know about the Profound Group. All right, I can tell you that I am indeed a disciple of the Profound Group, but I am not a fish that escaped from the net. My master is Spectrum. I am his new disciple." "Spectrum really isn't dead? He actually took in another disciple? You?" the man asked. "That's right. Of course my master isn't dead. He is the old leader of the Profound Group. How could he die so easily? I know that many people have been looking for him for many years, but you will never find him, because my master is not even in this world, Mark said. The brawny man narrowed his eyes. Not in this world? What do you mean by this? If Spectrum isn't in this world, then where is he? My master is in a spatial zone he refined himself. A spatial zone in a cauldron. You can't imagine it, can you? Mark smiled snidely. You stupid people can't imagine such things, so you are destined never to find my master. So that's how it is. The burly man seemed to have realized something, and he said to himself, Spectrum's divine skill is peerless, and he has actually refined a spatial zone for himself. No wonder no one could find him. Then the burly man looked at Mark with a puzzled expression. You told me such a confidential thing so readily. Aren't you afraid of... Before he could finish, Mark shook his head. Of course, I'm not afraid that you will expose this matter. I'm also not afraid that you will find my master. Do you know why? Mark had already forced himself in front of the burly man. He stared into the man's eyes and said word by word, Because you are going to be a dead man soon, and dead men tell no tales. A trace of shock flashed across the man's face. You want to kill me? What do you think? Mark's face showed a trace of ridicule, and then he said, However, if you are willing to answer my question, perhaps I can consider sparing you. Hearing this, a glimmer of hope flashed across the brawny man's face. Mark asked, Who sent you here? Who ordered you and your gang to attack my father-in-law? Will you really not kill me? The man asked. Mark said, This is your last chance. All right, I can tell you. I was sent by the Lamb family, the burly man said. Upon hearing this, Mark's face turned cold. The Lamb family? Roger Lamb? The burly man nodded. We were acting under Roger's orders. We needed to find a way to break your father-in-law and find out what happened in the Profound Group, Mark said. So, the one who wants to exterminate the Profound Group is Roger. The man shook his head. No, Roger is just a pawn. He's acting under orders from the Monroe family. Mark immediately understood what was going on. The Monroe family was a super powerful family in California. It turned out that the ones who wanted to kill the Profound Group were the Monroe family. As for Roger, he was just a dog of the Monroe family. But this dog was too arrogant. I've told you everything I can. You should let me go now, the burly man said. Mark looked at him and nodded. You can leave now. Do you want me to give you a ride? I can walk by myself. After saying that, the brawny man walked to the door of the basement. Mark's voice suddenly came from behind him. You misunderstand. I meant I will send you back where you came from. After saying this, Mark pushed his right palm forward, and a ball of flame shot toward the brawny man. Puff! The man instantly ignited. With a series of screams, he turned into ashes and disappeared from the world forever. After dealing with the man who had tied up and beaten his father-in-law, Mark quickly untied Timothy. Dad, are you okay? Mark. Timothy whispered Mark's name once. Then he tilted his head and fainted. Mark hurriedly picked him up and left the basement. Mark took Timothy home. By the time they arrived, Tia had worked herself into a frenzy, pacing back and forth in the living room. Tia was shocked when Mark walked in carrying her husband.
You really found him? What happened? How did he become like this?
Mark eased Timothy onto the sofa and checked him over. One of his shoulders was seriously injured.
What happened to him? Is he hurt?
Tia fretted. At this moment, Nicole came back. Mom, I didn't find Dad. Nicole looked very depressed when she came in, but when she saw that her father had returned, her eyes lit up. You found him! Nicole hurried over. Then she saw her father's face filled with pain and his eyes tightly closed. Her heart fell. What is going on? What exactly happened? Mark, where did you find Dad? Mark said, Don't worry, Dad is fine. It's just that the bones in his left shoulder seem to be broken. What? Both mother and daughter were shocked when they heard this. They became even more worried. We need to get him to the hospital, Nicole said. I'll call 911, Tia said. But Mark said, No need, I can cure Dad's shoulder. Without saying anything else, he took out a bone recovery infusion from his pocket and gave it to his father-in-law. In less than half an hour, Timothy woke up. The pained expression on his face eased up a lot. Tia did not like Mark and wanted to scold him, but when she saw her husband wake up, she swallowed her nasty words and said, Timothy, what happened? Who beat you up like this? Yes, Dad, what happened? Nicole asked. Dad was robbed, Mark said. Mark deliberately did not tell the truth about the men looking for information about the Profound Group. He felt a little regretful that he had mentioned anything about it. When he was at the auction at the Grand Hotel, he told Roger that he was a disciple of the Profound Group and that he had brought disaster upon his father-in-law. It seemed clear that the matter of the disciples of the Profound Group shouldn't be talked about. Now, Mark realized that many people were investigating the Profound Group for whatever reasons, so he had to try his best to conceal the fact that he was a disciple. Before his strength had fully grown, he had no choice but to conceal his connection to the Profound Group. He didn't want to bring disaster to himself or the people around him. Mark didn't tell them about the Lamb family. It wouldn't help if Nicole and her mother knew that the Lamb family had sent someone to hurt Timothy. The mother and daughter would still be helpless to do anything. In any case, it wouldn't do them any good if they knew more about this matter. It would only make them more worried. That was why Mark lied, saying that his father-in-law had been robbed. Why was he robbed? Timothy didn't have any money on him, Tia said. Timothy took a deep breath and said, I don't know. They seemed to think I was very rich. Mark breathed a sigh of relief when Timothy backed up Mark's lie. The two had a tacit understanding. Then we should call the police. Timothy, they shouldn't get away with hurting you like this. Call the police now. Let the police catch those bastards. Tia took out her phone and was about to call 911. Timothy hurriedly said, Don't call the police. It's over. Done. Forget it. This matter involved the Profound Group and the Lamb family. It was a matter of great importance, but calling the police wouldn't be of help. Plus, Timothy and Mark didn't want this matter to be exposed. So Mark said, Dad is right. It's useless to call the police. Fortunately, he's fine. As for the people who robbed him, they're just a bunch of gangsters. They've already been beaten away by me. Oh, Timothy, you are so old. You're lucky you weren't hurt worse, Tia said. Timothy said, Yes, it was all thanks to Mark. Otherwise, I would have died. Nicole looked at Mark and said, It was all thanks to you. When you said that you were going to use some kind of 5 ghosts tracking technique to find my dad, I didn't quite believe it. Now it seems that this method really works. Mark said, Why are you being so nice to me? Unfortunately, I was too late to stop him from being hurt. And if I'd been any later... Forget it, Mark. Don't say any more. Timothy interrupted Mark's words, afraid that Mark would blurt out the truth about the incident. He knew in his heart that it was definitely not a small matter that involved the Profound Group. But Timothy also knew that he had already been dragged into the matter of the Profound Group. He just hoped that he could keep his wife and daughter out of it completely.
All right. No matter what, as long as Timothy is okay, that's all I care about,
Tia said.
Timothy, let's go back to our room. Let me take a good look at your injuries. You should also have a good rest.
Nicole and Mark helped Timothy into the bedroom and let Tia take care of him. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Mark and Nicole returned to the living room. Mark said, "Nicole, it's late. You should go to bed. Don't you have to work tomorrow?" Nicole said, "You should rest too." At this moment, Mark's phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone and saw that it was Marcy calling. He did not know why, but he suddenly had a bad feeling. It was so late. Why was Marcy calling? He pressed the answer button, and Marcy's weak voice came from the other side.
Mr. Johnson, something's happened to our Green family.
Mark was slightly surprised when he heard this. He could tell that Marcy might have been seriously injured, which was why her voice sounded so weak. "Marcy, what happened?" Mark asked.
It's the Lamb family. The Lamb family is attacking us. Tonight, they launched a sudden attack. We weren't prepared, and the entire Green family is almost completely wiped out. My grandfather, Grandpa.
Mark's heart sank. What happened to Red?
Grandpa, he's seriously injured. I think he's dying. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on much longer.
Marcy's voice was not only weak, but also carried indescribable sadness and despair.
Mr. Johnson, save.
The line went dead. Mark slowly put down the phone. His face was solemn. "Okay, Roger. First you attacked my father-in-law. Now you have attacked the Green family, and you're eyeing the Profound group from the shadows. It seems like I have a score to settle with you." Mark clenched his fist tightly. At this time, Red Green's log mansion in the San Gabriel Mountains was in a mess. This house belonged to the Green family, but in fact, only Red lived in it. It had been specially built as a refuge for the old man while he was ill. It was built halfway in the mountains so Red could be far away from the bustling city and have lots of fresh air. And Red had always liked peace and quiet. The rest of the people in the Green family lived in the city. Only Red's granddaughter, Marcy, had been staying with him and taking care of him. Tonight, the people of the Green family seemed to have come to an agreement. They all came to Red's place to visit the old man. It was also today that the Green family faced a huge disaster. A group of masked men in black suddenly broke in and started killing everyone. Although the defenses of the mansion were very tight, they weren't enough to stop the men in black. They appeared in front of the Green family like devils popping up from hell. Then they rained violence on their heads. So the people of the Green family who came to visit Red, including Red's 2 brothers, his sister's family, and Marcy's aunt's family, were all killed. Even though Marcy activated the defenses of the house as fast as she could and called for the bodyguards, they still could not stop the men in black. They were too strong. They were a group of hired assassins intent on killing. In less than half an hour, the entire mansion was filled with miserable cries. There were bloodstains everywhere and bodies lying randomly on the ground. Everything was too horrible to look at. Red was seriously injured, and Marcy was also hurt. However, she still tried her best not to give in to the pain. In fact, what was about to destroy her was not the injuries on her body, but the psychological pain. Who were these men in black? Why did they attack her family? Across California, no one dared to touch the Green family. Even if someone was prepared to try hurting them, they would do it in secret. They wouldn't massacre them. The Green family was the #1 family in California. How could anyone have the nerve to dare wipe them out entirely? Marcy could only watch helplessly as her grandfather was cut in the back by a man in black. Marcy shouted and was about to rush over, but there were already 3 or 4 men surrounding her. Marcy could smell blood. She knew that the people from the Green family who had come to visit would not be able to escape death. Thinking of her family, Marcy was glad her father and her brother went overseas half a year ago. At least they had avoided disaster. She remembered that she had seen Uncle Bob in the mansion that afternoon, but there was no trace of him now. Marcy tried to use her phone to contact Uncle Bob to ask for help, but there was no answer. The only other person she could call was Mark, but she only said a few words before the men in black caught her. Marcy felt that ever since she ate the pill that Mr. Johnson gave her, her body and cultivation had improved, but she was still not a match for these men in black. They were too strong. Marcy was also injured. At this moment, she lifted her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. Then, she looked at the men surrounding her and asked, "Who are you people? Why did you attack my family?" One of the black men sneered. "You don't need to know who we are. You only need to know that your family offended someone they shouldn't have offended, and that's why you're in trouble." Another man in black said, "Stop talking nonsense with her. Kill her. Today, no one from the Green family can be left alive. After killing her, we'll burn this place to the ground. The Green family will be finished." After saying that, one of the men raised the long blade in his hand, but the others said, "Wait, we can't kill this woman. Young Mr. Lamb has given the order. He wants us to bring this woman back safely, as well as the old man. We need her alive." Marcy was surprised when she heard these words. Young Mr. Lamb? Liam? Her head buzzed as she suddenly understood something. So, it was the Lamb family behind this. In fact, she had already guessed it earlier. Besides their conflict with the Lamb family, she was confident that the Green family had no argument with anyone else. That was why, when she called Mark earlier, she told him that the attackers were from the Lamb family. At that time, she wasn't positive, but after hearing the conversation between these men in black, she was sure that they were sent by the Lamb family. Actually, during the auction at the Grand Hotel, she had already found some clues. At that time, conflict was about to happen, but Marcy didn't expect that the people of the Lamb family would be so impatient to attack the Green family. Marcy gritted her teeth. Roger had only survived because Marcy's grandfather took him in. He had been Red's bodyguard for many years. Later, he married Chantel Monroe from the Monroe family. Then, Roger left the Green family and established his own sect. After that, his ambition grew bigger and bigger. In the end, Roger's ambition led him to want to destroy the Green family, so the Lamb family could rise to be the #1 family. But no matter what, Roger had received a lot of help from Red, so for a long time, Roger wouldn't go too far. However, at this moment, Marcy realized that she was still too naive. Roger's ambition had expanded. The kindness the old man had shown him was no longer a concern to him. That was why he launched a sudden attack on the Green family tonight. He wanted to wipe out the entire Green family, including any innocent relatives. Marcy clenched her fists. Could it be that the Green family was doomed? Marcy was not willing to accept this. If her grandfather died today, and all the people of the Green family died, then the Green family's property would become the property of the Lamb family. Several generations of Greens had worked hard to build up their properties and holdings. How could it all be destroyed overnight? Thinking of this, Marcy clenched her fists even tighter. Suddenly, she roared furiously and used all her strength to rush toward the men who surrounded her. But just as she took 2 steps forward, she suddenly saw the black-clothed person opposite her raise his hand and shake it in front of her eyes. Then she smelled a strange smell. This smell instantly went through her nose and into her body, and finally her head. Marcy suddenly felt dizzy. She trembled and staggered. Finally, her vision went black, and her body fell straight forward. Before losing consciousness, she heard a man in black say, "Take this woman back and give her to young Liam, and take old man Green as well. We need him alive." After that, Marcy's world went black. When Mark arrived at the mansion, he was actually a step too late. A huge fire was still raging where the luxurious mountain retreat had once stood. There were bloodstains on the ground, and bodies lying everywhere. The smell of blood and burning was ripe in the air, reminding Mark of the terror that had happened here. No rescue services were here, probably because the location was so remote, and it was late at night. It was unlikely anyone had noticed the conflagration. Even if someone had reported it, it would be useless because the people of the Lamb family had already arranged everything before they launched the attack. Looking at the luxurious cabin engulfed by the fire, Mark's face was expressionless. After that, he slowly walked into the fire. He was using the power of his will to slowly activate the triple flame fire controlling technique. With his current strength, he would be safe and sound in the sea of fire. Mark had always wanted to test this technique out. Today, he finally had a chance. If someone else entered the fire, they would immediately be engulfed and burned to ashes. But when Mark walked in, the burning flames automatically backed away, making a path for him. Mark slowly walked through the middle of the path. The burning heat of the fire did not make him feel uncomfortable at all. It was the same as walking on the road. He did not feel anything. As he walked, he saw bodies that were not completely burned. They died with everlasting regret. There were old people, men, women, and even a few children of 5 or 6 years old. It was tragic. The Lamb family was ruthless. Marcy had told him everything about the Lamb family and Green family in detail. The patriarch of the Lamb family, Roger, had received a favor from Red Green and, as repayment, had been Red's bodyguard for many years. To put it bluntly, Roger was like a pet raised by the Green family. But who would have thought that a loyal pet would behave like Roger did? One day, he wanted to leave and establish his own family. That would have been okay, except that he decided he even wanted to bite his master in return. This was a dog with no conscience, and this dog had to die. In his heart, Mark had already sentenced Roger to death. It was only a matter of time. Mark walked around the burning mansion, but he didn't find Red or Marcy. Could it be that they were already dead? It seemed like the people of the Lamb family were intent on wiping out the entire Green family. However, he had come into contact with Red and Marcy several times, so he was slowly gathering the energy of this grandfather and granddaughter. After a slight sensing, he discovered that although these two weren't in the villa, they were still alive. It was possible that they were captured by the people of the Lamb family. It made sense. Roger wouldn't want Red to die easily or quickly. There was also Marcy. Mark worried about her because Roger's son, Liam, had been drooling over her. She was probably already in Liam's hands. Mark couldn't afford to delay. With a final quick look around, Mark turned and left Red's mansion burning in the night. Then, he headed straight for the Lamb family. Marcy had already told Mark everything about the Lamb family, so he now knew where their lair was. However, to be safe, he still used the 5 ghosts tracking technique. He ran all the way to the home of the Lamb family. Roger's ambition wasn't small. He wanted to eliminate the Green family in just one night, and then replace them with the Lamb family. But could Roger really fulfill this wish? Not necessarily. Because Mark had come, Roger was destined to fail. As Mark was rushing toward the Lamb family as fast as he could, Roger and his son were sitting on the sofa in the living room of their huge house. Beside them stood a man in black. The man in black said respectfully to Roger, "Sir, the Green family has been destroyed." Roger had expected this outcome, so he was not surprised. He picked up a cup of coffee from the coffee table and took a sip. Then he said lightly, "The Green family has been destroyed? Is that so? Isn't it a little too early to say that? If Old Man Green doesn't die, then the Green family won't truly be destroyed." Liam said, "Dad, almost all of the people of the Green family are dead. As for Old Man Green, he's in a bad way. If you want, we can send him to hell right now." Roger said, "Green still has a son overseas." Liam said, "You're talking about Paul, the eldest son of Old Man Green and Marcy's father. I heard about him. But so what? As long as the Green family is destroyed, there will only be one Paul left. What can he do? If he's smart, he'll hide overseas for the rest of his life and never come back. If he comes back, I'll kill him as well." Roger said, "I'm afraid that if we don't remove the roots of the grass, it will grow again in the spring." Liam said, "Hey, Dad, what's so difficult about this? Didn't Bob seek refuge with us? We can ask him to contact Paul and get him to come back from overseas. And then," as Liam spoke, he raised a hand and made a neck-cutting motion. Roger stood up. "Fine, I will go and see Red first, my savior, who has always been high and mighty. Now that he has fallen to such a state, I would like to see what this old man has to say. As for his eldest son, Paul, there's no hurry. I will find an opportunity to trick him back. Then I'll kill him in front of the old guy. I want the old man to personally witness the deaths of his own son and grandchild." Roger looked up as his son made an odd noise in his throat. "Oh, right. Marcy must also die. You know that." Liam quickly stood up and said, "No, Dad, Marcy is my woman. She can't die." Roger glared at his son and said, "You insect brain. If you spoil our big deal because of a woman, you may have to die too." Hearing this, Liam's face showed a trace of fear, but he immediately smiled and said to his father, "Dad, I didn't say you couldn't kill Marcy. What I meant was, don't kill her now. Wait till I'm done with her. Then I'll deal with her. She has always been arrogant and conceited. She never respected me. She'd rather sleep with that Johnson guy. She doesn't even want to look at me. Well, now I'm in charge. Now I want to see if she can still be arrogant in front of me." Roger's heart skipped a beat when he heard Mark Johnson's name. Roger didn't care about the Green family at all. He could destroy them at any time without worry. But when he thought of that kid, Johnson, he couldn't help but worry, because he had personally witnessed the strength of that young man, and heard him claim to be a member of the Profound Group. Seeing his father's serious face, Liam cautiously asked, "Dad, what's wrong? Aren't you going to see Old Man Green?" Roger suddenly sat down on the sofa again, his expression terrifyingly serious. After a while, he asked the man in black who was still standing there, "Didn't I ask you to send someone to investigate that Johnson kid and the Profound Group? How's the investigation going? That Johnson brat, what is his true identity? And what kind of relationship does he have with the Profound Group?" The man in black lowered his head and said with some shame, "As you asked, I sent someone to keep an eye on that Johnson brat's father-in-law, Timothy. I was going to find a way to break him, but I never thought."
Roger narrowed his eyes. What did you not think? The man looked away and then at the floor before meeting Roger's gaze again. I never thought that the people I sent would never come back. There was no news. I sent people to look for them, but in the end, I had to follow the traces they left behind. I tracked them all the way to the basement of a rundown building, but in his basement. But I only found a few piles of ash. What? Roger was surprised. You only found a few piles of ash? Do you mean the people you sent ran into trouble? The man nodded. It is very likely so. The people I sent were burned to ash, just like that. Timothy was also rescued. I suspect that the one who attacked them was that Johnson brat. Sir, it seems like this kid isn't normal. Hearing this, Roger couldn't help but furrow his brows. He suddenly recalled the words left by Mark at the auction at the Grand Hotel. Roger, you better remember this. From today onwards, I, Mark, will protect the Green family. If you dare to touch even a hair of theirs, I will make sure that none of your Lamb family is left alive. For some reason, Roger's heart skipped a beat when he remembered these words. Seeing his father's sudden change of expression, Liam stepped forward and said, Dad, are you afraid of that Johnson guy? Who does he think he is? Wasn't he relying on the Green family to back him up? Now the Green family had been destroyed. Let's see how long he will be proud of himself. Rogers said, Liam, you're mistaken. It's not the Green family that is supporting him. It's him who is supporting them. So what? No matter how powerful he is, he's still just one person. It's difficult for him to fight 4 opponents with 2 fists. Now that the Green family has been destroyed, he is the only one left. I don't believe that the Lamb family won't be able to kill him. Liam folded his arms decisively. What do you know? Roger was infuriated by his son's superficial knowledge. He glared at Liam and said, If that kid really is a member of the Profound Group, it will be a big problem. From the beginning, when Roger saw Mark using the Fire Thunder Palm, he thought that Mark might be from the Profound Group. But at that time, he wasn't completely sure, so he could only be cautious and try not to offend Mark. After that, Mark admitted that he was a disciple of the Profound Group, and Roger secretly sent someone to investigate him. However, at this moment, he still couldn't be 100% sure that this kid was a disciple of the Profound Group. This was because the Profound Group had already been destroyed more than 10 years ago. All the disciples of the Profound Group were dead, and even if they weren't all dead, if a fish had escaped the net, that clever fish wouldn't be someone like Mark. Of course, there was also the disappearance of the old leader of the Profound Group, Spectrum. This old man was not to be underestimated. Various people had put in a lot of effort to find Spectrum over the years, but without luck. They couldn't find any trace of him either. Now, this Mark Johnson had suddenly appeared and claimed that he was a disciple of the Profound Group, and he was using the Fire Thunder Palm of the Profound Group. How could Roger not be worried by this? Roger didn't know how Mark got into a relationship with the Green family, but it seemed like he had a good relationship with them, especially with Marcy. Now, Roger had launched a lightning attack on the Green family. He had almost wiped out the whole lot, and he knew Mark wouldn't let this matter rest after hearing about it. The man in black next to him said to Roger, Sir, that Johnson kid has a close relationship with Marcy. I'm afraid he won't let this matter rest after learning about it. Roger frowned and said in a serious tone, Has Master William arrived? The man nodded. He's here. Very good. With Master William here, we can be at ease. Even if that Johnson brat comes here, we won't be afraid. Liam, who was standing to the side, suddenly became excited. That's right. Our Lamb family still has a trump card. That's Master William. Even if that Johnson guy is really a member of the Profound Group, no matter how powerful he is, can he be stronger than Master William? I doubt it, so we don't have to worry about him. I hope not. Roger let out a long breath and waved his hand. Let's go. I want to see Red. After Roger and the man in black left, Liam became impatient. He rubbed his hands and said to himself, It is time for me to meet Marcy. I would like to see if this woman can still be so arrogant in front of me. Of course, if she is willing to beg me, I will try to plead with my father to spare her life. But if she doesn't know how to be humble, then she'll have to face what happens. Liam happily walked out of the living room, then waved to one of the black-clad guards and said, Where's Marcy? I told you not to touch a single hair on her head. You didn't do anything to her, did you? The guard replied impassively. We didn't want to be rude to that woman, but she is quite a skilled and courageous fighter. She was slightly injured when we captured her, but it wasn't serious. At this moment, sir, she's waiting in your room. Good, well done. I will reward you handsomely. Later. She's already in my room, you say? I will go and say hello. Liam walked away, chuckling to himself. This is great. This is wonderful. I'm coming, Marcy. Mark followed the trail of Red and Marcy's energy all the way to the Lamb family mansion. As soon as Mark arrived at the entrance to the property, several security guards blocked the way. Mark glanced at them and didn't say anything. He just sent them flying with a punch. Then he strode toward the mansion. A few guards in black appeared in front of him like devils. Who are you? How dare you trespass on the Lamb family's property? One of the men in black shouted at Mark. The guard recognized Mark and shouted, It's that Johnson guy. He is here as expected. Quickly, inform Mr. Lamb. One of the men in black turned to go report to Roger. But just as he turned, he heard a muffled sound. A sharp pain blossomed in the middle of his back, and he fell to the ground with a thud. Mark had picked up a stone and aimed it at the middle of the guard's back. I'm prepared to give Roger a surprise, so there is no need to report my presence, Mark said lightly. The faces of the other guards changed dramatically. They had never thought that this Johnson brat would be so ruthless. He had killed one of them already, with just one move. The kid had used a hidden weapon, only flicked it lightly, and one of the guards lay dead. In fact, there were many hidden weapons used in the Profound Group. The lowest level of hidden weapons, such as stones and knives, could be used to kill after some training in the techniques. Mark's current strength was only at the beginner level, so he had been using stones as his hidden weapons, secretly practicing with them when he was alone. Because the stones were visible objects and had a certain weight, it was fairly easy to control them. After a short period of practice, Mark's control over the stones was at the peak of perfection. But stones were only the lowest level of concealed weapons. At a higher level, even leaves and flowers could be lethal. Even a drop of rain falling from the sky could be used as a concealed weapon if a person knew what to do. Of course, Mark's current strength was not at this level yet, but it was only a matter of time. However, to deal with these black guards in front of him, using stones as hidden weapons was enough. These men were indeed extraordinary. They had sneaked into Green's mansion and wiped out the entire family. But to Mark, these men were nothing. The martial arts of Profound Group were incredibly powerful. Even Mark, whose strength was only at the beginner level, was more than strong and skilled enough to deal with these men in black. Mark had come here to save Red and Marcy as soon as possible, so he didn't want to waste any time on security guards. When those guards in black rushed toward Mark so aggressively, Mark's mouth revealed a trace of a cold smile. The stones in his sleeves dropped down one by one into his fingers,
Then he suddenly raised his hand, and with a few popping sounds, the stones flew toward the guards like a rain of lethal hail. With a few screams, the guards, who were about to attack Mark, fell to the ground. The stones hit their vital areas accurately, so after a few screams, the men in black stopped moving. Mark glanced at them and said, "It was you who destroyed the Green family, so you have to pay with your lives." After saying that, Mark stepped over the bodies and continued on toward the house. "Stop!" A large group of people rushed out of the mansion. These people were also black-clad security guards, roughly 20 or 30. Mark whistled under his breath and wondered how much money Roger spent on security. These hired goons of the Lamb family were responsible for guarding the property. First, Mark used the stone as a hidden weapon and dropped a dozen of them to the ground. Then, bang, bang, bang! Mark flew around kicking and punching. After only a few moves, the rest of the goons had fallen to the ground. Then Mark gently clapped his hands and looked with contempt at the fallen fighters. Then he walked into the mansion. However, at this moment, a cold voice was suddenly heard from up above. "It seems like a powerful skill, but it's just a small trick.